Hello again. I'm here with Gabor Harsani again. Last week we did a video about how to do law of attraction the right way after explaining why it doesn't work in most cases, why so many people fail at it. And today we're going to continue this conversation because in the meantime we had a great response, great interest, and also a few questions came in. And the question that we'll focus on today has to do with letting go. It seems we touched a little bit about it last time, but it seems to be a very, very important consideration, and where most people stumble because they just don't seem to be able to let it go. And I understand that when you want something so badly, it becomes, and your mind is invested so much in creating it and how you want it to be and how you want it to look, that it's only natural to feel like you're mothering that concept, you're mothering that creation, and you don't want to let it go. And so this one person asked, she's very smart, she tried to let it go by using a statement that she heard or she read by Krishnamurti. And the statement was basically, the secret to my happiness, the secret to my inner freedom is that I don't mind what happens to me. It's really beautiful. And she tried to incorporate that into her practice and using it in order to let go. So now she's writing to us that in spite of that effort, in spite of that wonderful statement that she likes so much, she still hasn't been able to let go. She does the practice, but there's always something inside her that still feels like a neediness or a fear of not getting it or a fear of failure. So can you talk a little bit about that, Gabor? Thank you.
You know what Krishnamurti said, I don't mind what happens, is accurate on the level of language. Of course, he has no other way to express what he means other than language. So it's the I don't mind what happens is a conceptual languaged equivalent of the real thing. Like if the flea would be looking at an elephant and the flea would try to characterize the elephant, the flea might say, oh, Jada Krishnamurti, it looks like he doesn't mind what happens. So that knowing that conceptually is not enough. So the man or the lady, I don't know who wrote, can relax because you cannot try to not mind what happens with the mind. I don't mind what happens. Yeah, but I do. Don't mind what happens. Okay, so my mind instructing my mind not to mind. That's not going to work. What is going to work is what I call the angular equivalent of the statement. Someone who is not familiar with stuff that I'm saying might say the energy equivalent, the actual intentional equivalent, intention inside the body equivalent of the statement. So if you go to the actual intentional equivalent to the body of the statement, the concept is true, but the concept cannot be used by the mind. How it works is that concept has to be manifested inside the body, find the energetic equivalent inside the body, if I want to call it that way, energetic equivalent, and then it will work. Then the I don't mind what happens actually happens on a different level than the mind. And then the mind can truly say, oh, look at me. I could accomplish not minding what happens. But it's not the mind who did it. It's something else than the mind, which is, you know, the existential level of consciousness, the body's intelligence.
So,
I don't know if this is clear.
well, if I understood you correctly, Krishnamurti, when he said that, perhaps that statement did not come from a mind, but obviously it has to be expressed in words that are used in the mind. But he was obviously, perhaps, I don't know, I haven't met him, but he perhaps was in a different consciousness than most minds are in, all minds are in. And he said it from that place, from that place of silence that was probably activated within him. And yet when we hear statements, and I see statements similar to that all over the place, and I used to memorize statements and recite them all the time, and with the hopes that somehow they'll stick to me and I will imbibe them. But none of them were ever my own experience, because I was contemplating them with the mind. This is before I met you, and before I knew how to activate and use the intelligence of the body to actually have the experience from where the statement was said. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's I've had long sentences and explanations, and so did you. So, basically the bottom line is that statement, although it's accurate on the mind level, only can only be useful if it's not used on the mind level. If it's used on the mind level, it's useless, because the mind cannot not mind what happens. So we have to go to a different level. We can say a higher consciousness level. We can say using the body's intelligence gets me to a different level. And now I can actually say, I don't mind what happens in words.
Okay. So how would one do that? How would one, I know you talked a little bit about it last time, but can you review that in this context now?
Okay, it's how might that happen? It requires a whole bunch of explanations about other things before actually I can answer that question. We have to learn how to access the universe first. The universal equivalent is the body. The body is the copy of the universe. We have to accept the fact that there is a perfect intelligence that runs my body that can be used, even though I have issues and mental issues and stuff in my mind that's not quite kosher. That has to be accepted intellectually, as well as, let's say, energetically, as well as in practice. If it's not accepted, there's just no way, right? So once that's accepted, then we have to accept that to do that, we do not have the skills currently to do that. We have not done that before as humanity. Maybe in the golden age that was available, but a whole new set of skills are required to be able to access the body's intelligence. To the ordinary observer, it would look like you're looking inside, but that's not enough. So we have to learn how to access the body's intelligence as a base to come from, and then we have to learn how to nail it down and stay in it. Once we're able to stay engulfed in the body's intelligence, right? Then we're in a whole different consciousness level. Once we're in a whole different consciousness level, then we truly don't mind what happens.
Right. That's very good.
Yeah.
Yeah. It seems like there has been, generally speaking, there has been a lot of resistance to anything to do with the body. It's one thing. There's been a lot of propaganda against the body. You're not the body, you're not the body. As we both know from our past journeys, that didn't end up well. Um, and now it's a new concept of actually going into the body. So that's one thing. And the other part I feel is the simplicity of it. It seems so simple just to feel a body. It's so different from our regular mental syntax. We're so used to analyzing things, learning them, the doing. So many teachers today say, you don't have to do anything. You either get it or you don't. Uh, but it seems like you are teaching some kind of doing. How would you explain the difference between the doing that you're teaching as opposed to too much effort, or you don't have to do anything, just sit at home, watch TV, drink a beer and wait for it to happen to you, if it even happens to you?
Yeah. When someone says you don't have to do anything, it depends on what they mean by doing. You know, you don't have to do anything. I think they're probably referring to you don't have to do anything, you don't have to meditate, you don't have to change personality, you don't have to clean up the chakras, whatever, you don't have to do anything, right? That's probably what they mean. And I don't know if that's what they mean, but when it comes to paying attention, moving the attention is a doing. So it is absolutely not true that you don't have to do anything, because an attention shift is required, which in my opinion, shifting the attention is a doing. So that is absolutely required to even start being able to access a higher level of consciousness.
Sure. Can you elaborate more on that?
Our attention, which is the most important asset, is all tied up with programming. So there is no free attention left to do anything else but the damn programming. That's it. Now, if we don't do something about it, okay, then all the attention is tied up. There's nothing we can do. Tomorrow is going to be the same as today. Doesn't matter what technique we're employing or deploying, it will not work. Okay, so the attention has to be freed up from this programmed attention and kept that way. The way we free up attention is we focus on the body's intelligence. That brings us to a whole different level of consciousness, like a super consciousness level where the body's intelligence dominates. That is equivalent to free attention. It's no longer the programmed attention. And that's where once we have freed attention and not programmed attention, then our own will be dominant. Our own programming will be dominant. We can program our own life. We can be our destiny will be our own destiny, not what somebody else dictates. So I don't know if I answered your question, but unfortunately, all of the answers are complex enough, filled with new concepts. Every answer has many new concepts at the same time.
Right.
So, you know, these things are very clear, but in order to actually know and embody the answer, we have to go through several concepts in understanding and in practice.
Okay. Can you maybe right now guide us, the audience, whoever's watching this, to actually access the body's intelligence? You guide us step by step for a few minutes right now.
Yeah. Okay. Well, the one of the simplest thing to do is you smile, and by smiling, I mean it a little bit differently. I move these muscles. So we're not actually smiling. It looks like we're smiling, but we're feeling the body part called the face. So when you move it, you can feel the body part, feel the vitality in it. At the same time, feel your nose. Include the nose in the vitality. Feel the air going in and out of your nose. If the mind would like to comment or you have a thought, then chuckle. That's just chuckle, just a deliberate, it's an exhale that's very abrupt, very sharp. It's like this. Basically, you're interrupting the mind that wants to interrupt you. The mind does not want to do this. It will do everything to compare it, put it in some kind of a template. It seems to, for the mind, everything what I just did is nonsense. And that's totally correct. We're going from the world of senses to nonsense. The world of nonsense is more important than the world of sense. A higher level of consciousness is in the context of nonsense. Keep feeling the face. Keep feeling the breath going through the nose and the face. Chuckle if any interruption is happening and the mind is saying something. Don't try to analyze it. Don't try to do anything with it. Whether it's a positive or a negative thought, it doesn't matter. You don't want any thoughts or any interruption. And feel the face and feel the air going through your nose. And you will notice very quickly, almost immediately, that your mind will slow down or stop. That is the first thing that we notice. This is not what we are after. The calming of the mind is a side effect. But it's if we can't go any further right now, that's a good enough place to be, right? If we keep on feeling the face, even though the mind stopped already, they keep on accessing the intelligence, then this intelligence will take us through the eye of the needle.
Can you explain what you mean by entering the eye of the needle?
Well, in order to access a higher level of consciousness, we're going from one context to another. We're going from, let's say we're going from the beach, we're going underwater. It's a whole different environment with different rules. So going through the eye of the needle is just to use Jesus's metaphor that we go through the eye of the needle. We cannot take anything with us. With going underwater, you couldn't take your beach house with you, or any photographic equipment, unless it's underwater photography. So nothing we can take. So it's a metaphor. We're going from one type of environment to an entirely different environment. So I'm using this metaphor of going through the eye of the needle.
That's a wonderful metaphor, and I like what you said about you can't take anything with you, because as you know, we found that when people actually practice this, and what we just did, and they go through the eye of the needle, so to speak, all of a sudden they don't even want to manifest anything. The desire to manifest, or whatever it was that they wanted before, I've seen people say, well, I feel whole now. I feel so peaceful. I feel so calm. I don't care anymore. Well, basically, I don't mind what happens. That's,
As you go,
that's
that's
right.
really true. Like Krishnamurti, he
Yeah,
doesn't mind what happens.
yeah,
Many people will say, I don't care what happens,
yeah,
but I don't mind what happens is a nicer way to say it.
yeah.
Usually what happens first is like there's a honeymoon phase where it feels so good that not only you don't mind what happens, you don't want anything to happen because it feels so good. It feels like, oh my God, finally I'm home.
Mhm.
This is life. Wow. Do I want to manifest anything? No. The only thing I want to stay here and keep this. Right?
Yeah, yeah,
That's the, let's say, the honeymoon phase, and that's great. It depends for many people. It's a month, 2 months. It could be a year. I don't know. Usually, it's just a few months.
yeah.
Then comes the next step where we not only sitting in this amazing quantum field, let's say, but we start using it. Now that's when actual manifestation starts.
Yeah.
That's when we are masters of it. In order to permanently be there, we have to be masters of it. So feel it, then we have to learn different skills to be masters of it, use it in our life, integrate our life on the horizontal level to the angular level. And that's when we can actually say, okay, I am now awake,
Yeah.
enlightened, if you wanted to say that, but I don't recommend that you say that.
So that's basically the key to letting go. Because once you,
Yes.
yeah,
The key to the actual key to letting go is not in the jurisdiction of the mind.
mhm,
Although we're talking about the mind to let go, but to actually let it go is not in the jurisdiction of the mind. We have to go to the world of nonsense in order to let go from the mind. We can say disconnect from the mind. We could, the way I use it, I say we bypass the mind and we go to this higher level, which is available to everyone right now, but it requires different skills than what we had learned before. Meditation, therapy, shifting personalities is not enough. It's enough to have a slightly better life temporarily, but it's not enough on a permanent basis.
exactly. And when you mentioned some people takes a month, some people take a year, what we found is that it requires a willingness to be simple, to do this simplicity of feeling a body part, and to be willing to live in a world of nonsense, and to be willing to step out of our mental syntax and try something different. As you said many times, the world is changing. The environment has already changed a lot, and we are entering into a new paradigm. And how do you feel that this kind of practice, this kind of non-doing can prepare us best for the new paradigm?
Well, different people have different concepts of the new paradigm, and none of the concepts are accurate. Now, that's inherently not accurate because we're expressing it in words. Many people say the new paradigm, oh, the earth is going to go not to the fourth, but to the fifth level of the fifth dimension. And people hear it from each other and they say, oh, we're going to the fifth dimension. Oh, we're going to the fifth dimension. That makes sense on a duality level because we keep on progressing. And if we are in the third dimension, well, the fifth one is a better one, right? Because it's the fifth. So we must be going to a higher level of consciousness by going to the fifth dimension. Many people say, oh, we have to increase our frequency. It's a much higher, a higher level of consciousness is a higher level of frequency.
Raise your vibration.
Higher octave, raise your vibration. You raise your vibration, you change your life, etc., etc. And everything I just said sounds good, even has credibility, but it doesn't work because everything what was just said was said on a mind level that needs to be transcended, right? Where the world is not going to the fifth dimension. Where there is a level of consciousness that need to dominate, that's behind every dimension, that needs to dominate for us to evolve into this new paradigm. The new paradigm is not a higher dimension. The new paradigm is the awakening of humanity. It be going on to be shifting into a whole different world of priority that cannot be really explained on a frequency level. The normal human mind would say, okay, everything is energy, everything is frequency. Therefore, the only variable I have is frequency or energy. So let's make some variables to make it better, right? It's like, I call it the goat is guarding the cabbage.
Yeah.
So the mind is trying to create concept and make different variables and come up with stuff from the past to justify the incorrect version of events for the new paradigm, which is, everything is frequency, everything is energy. So I have those variables to fix in order to do that, and has absolutely nothing to do with anything like that. And humanity is going to be we're going to be awakening to our own self that is not in the context of the mind, that is not in the context of limitations, that is not in the pre-programming life. So where we're going cannot be measured in dimension, because a high level of consciousness is to be behind every dimension and rule every dimension. That is the new paradigm.
Yeah.
It's not like, oh, we're going to the fifth.
Yeah.
Somebody started it, I don't know who, and then they kept copying each other's books, and everybody accepts it now as a true statement. So when someone reads, we're going to the fifth dimension, everything is energy, higher frequency, that's now the assumption that's true. So now everything new that comes into a personal life is now compared to those basic statements.
Yeah.
So we cannot go right with those bad assumptions. Nothing good comes out of it. Just a whole new narrative, maybe a whole new rhetoric, a whole new research.
Yeah.
Research can't get you to this higher level of consciousness. Research is the worst thing that someone can do, researching stuff from the past and come up with time-tested strategies. Yeah, time-tested when we want to get out of time.
Yeah.
Okay, let's deploy time-tested strategies, which of course, because of time testing, it has a good reputation and credibility.
Right. Right.
This new level of consciousness has absolutely no credibility, and it's nonsense.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's very true. I mean, you and I both have had our share of research and reading and focusing on different concepts. But for me, and I'm sure for you as well, it was only when I had the direct experience from following your practices that something actually happened beyond the mind, beyond all the conceptual studies that I've done before. So thank you so much for this wonderful explanation and for the guidance. And I would encourage anyone to try to do the practice, whether from this video or from other videos on our YouTube channel. You can click the subscribe button and you can find other practices, because unless it's our own experience, it's all mental. I want to say mental masturbation, but I don't know if I'm allowed to say that on YouTube. I hope they don't chuck this video out because of that. But anyways, so it is. Thank you again. And I'm sure we'll hear more about this, and we'll do another video soon.